At the beginning of the year, I created a list of all the things I wanted to make and all the new hobbies I wanted to try, some for the very first time. On my list, I wrote down that I would love to create a felted playmat for my daughters. I'd seen them in toy shops and I loved how they brought so much character, colour and texture to a play space. Using a selection of beautiful wool roving colours from Indigo Inspirations, I had my very first go at wet felting. I watched a few quick tutorials and then I got started. I laid down some old towels and a nice big piece of bubble wrap. I then layered my wool roving until I was happy with the shape that I had created. I wanted this playmat to look like a beautiful, lush flower field, so I used a combination of two greens to create the base. Once I was happy with how it looked, I filled a watering can up with warm water and dish soap and saturated the mat. I gave it a quick press and then I used the bubble wrap to roll it all up. Adding some light pressure, I rolled the mat for a couple of minutes. I opened the mat up and began adding more wool to the sections that were looking a little thin. At this point, I also turned in the edges of the mat to make it look more neat. It was then time for what was probably my favourite step of the whole process. It was time to start creating the flower field. Using a handful of colours, I created small wisps of wool and placed these delicately around the edges of the mat. I layered the wisps until I was happy with how they looked and once again used my bubble wrap to press it all down into place. I rolled up the mat once again and this time I rolled for about 4 to 5 minutes. I squeezed out as many of the bubbles as I could before rinsing it completely under the tap and again squeezing out as much of the liquid as possible. I laid the mat flat and then I left it to dry for a few hours. Once it was dry, I used a needle and thread to add some embellishments. I loved the whole process so much that I quickly created a second mat. Would you try wet felting?